Anybody forgetful? Raise your hand. Anybody forgetful? You forget everything in life? Anyone forgetful? I am forgetful for sure. I forget passwords. Anybody forget when subscriptions were new? Anybody forget when those happened? Some of y'all, your parents pay for your subscriptions, so I just airball right there. But for me, I forget when my subscriptions hit. I forget. Anybody forget why they walk into a room when they do? They walk in a room, they forget why on earth they were in there. Anybody raise your hand? Anybody do that? All of us do it. Wow, that is healing for my soul right there. I walk into rooms, I don't know why. Anybody ever, I was talking to a leader this morning about this. If you ever went to text somebody and you pull up their text message and on there you see a text message that you had already written up before but you forgot to send, and then it's like really awkward because you got to ask them about something else. Yeah, it's a whole thing. I forget about things a lot. When I was in high school, I forgot about assignments all the time. And not just assignments in general. Typically I would remember what I had to do, I would remember what I had to do. What I wouldn't remember are all the details. So like, for example, I took Spanish 6. Holla at your boy, you know what I'm saying? I took Spanish 6, I made it. Forgot all of it, but I went through Spanish 6, and I was balling, I'm not going to lie. And everyone else in the class loved it except for me. I hated it. But I do remember one time I had a presentation that I forgot about, and it's the night before, and I had not done anything for this presentation yet whatsoever. It's the night before. So my question for you is, do I go to sleep or do I work on the presentation? I go to sleep, right? Because I need sleep. I don't need the presentation, but I need sleep. So I went to sleep and instead woke up early the morning of and spent like an hour or so working on my presentation. And y'all, like, it was like, you ever just like, you're like, God is helping me write this presentation right now because I don't know how I'm doing this. I don't know how this is possible, but thank you, Jesus. I'm getting this assignment done in time, I think. So I walk in, I forget what period of the day or what block I had Spanish, but I got to Spanish, and I think there was me and one other person presenting that day, and so I get up, I'm first, and I'm stoked, because I'm like, I feel good about this, okay? I feel good about this presentation. I've been working hard for an hour on it that morning, and so I get to Spanish, I start my presentation. I gave the best 5-minute presentation I've ever given in my entire life. Like, I was like, that's 100%. Like, I got an A on this. I'm balling and blessed. Look at me. Let's go. I get back to my seat, and like, I'm just on cloud 9 because I couldn't believe I spent an hour preparing this 5-minute presentation that I just crushed it, guys. It was so good. I went and sat back down. I looked at my friends. I was like, guys, I wrote that this morning. And when I looked at their face, I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what was wrong. I knew something was wrong. I was like, did I miss something? Did I say something stupid? Like, what? Like, that was the best 5-minute presentation of my life. They said, yeah, it was pretty good for 5 minutes. It was supposed to be 30 minutes. I did a 5-minute presentation, walked off like I was balling and blessed when I was supposed to do a 30-minute presentation. The next person got up. I should have known there's only 2 people presenting in the day. The next person got up, presented for half an hour, and it was, I think I still passed the presentation, though, so I don't know how that works. But can we clap for the teachers who just don't care and grade us well anyways? Thank you. I forget things all the time. Like I said, and like many of you resembled with or related to, I walk into rooms and I wonder, why on earth am I here? Have you ever had a moment in your life where you're like, why on earth am I here? How did I end up here? Out of all the places in life, how on earth am I here? Maybe you're in a relationship or just got out of one. Let's say you just got out of, anyone raise your, I'm just kidding, no, don't do that. But maybe you're here and you just got out of a relationship. And the breakup is tearing you apart. You were so dependent on that person and what they said about you and the fact that somebody loved you and wanted to label you their boyfriend or their girlfriend. And now that you don't have that, you're torn apart. And you may be wondering to yourself, how did I end up here? So dependent on somebody else. Maybe you have found yourself at a party that you told yourself, 1, you would never go to again. Or 2, that you would never cross that boundary, that you would never cross that line. Yet here you are again, and you're thinking to yourself, how on earth did I end up here? And it may not be something as serious as those 2 things. Maybe it's like, I'm worried about my grades. Why am I so worried about my grades? Maybe you got into a place in your life or in your friendships where you're so concerned about what other people think about you that it's all consuming, and you just have a moment where you realize, how did I end up here? Have you ever had a moment in your life where you're like, how did I end up here? How did I get to this place? How did I find myself with this addiction? How did I end up here? Why am I here? Why am I here? My question for you is this. Why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you on this earth? Why has God created you? What's your purpose? What's your meaning? Why did God create you? To be honest, many of us would say, I don't think I know. Many of us would maybe come up with an idea, but if I were to ask 50 of y'all, 50 of you would have different answers. Because for so many of us, we're living life without our why. Do you know your why? Do you know why you're here? Do you know why you're on this earth? Do you know why God created you? Many of you may find yourself in a place tonight where the answer would be no. I don't really know my purpose. I don't really know why I'm here. And because of that, because you don't know your why, if you're writing notes, take this down. Type this down, write this down, I don't know. If you don't know your why, you probably don't know your way either. You don't know your way in life. You've lost your way. You're tumbling down, you have no idea where you're at, and you have no idea why you ended up here. You don't know your why, so you've lost your way. You find yourself in rooms that you never thought you would be in. Found yourself in circumstances that you would have never asked for. Found yourself in a season of life you didn't invite. All because you lost your why, or maybe never realized it. You've now lost your way. What I believe about each and every single one of us here, though, adult, student, any grade, any age, is that we want to know our why. I think at some point in life, every single one of us has a moment where we ask ourselves, ask God, what did you create me for? Why am I here? If I had to take a wild guess, you want to know your why. You want to know what you're here for. You want to know what you were created to do. But there's a few problems you're facing. The first problem is this: there's so many options. There's so many options. I heard in a book recently, you can do anything you want in life, but you can't do everything that you want. There's so many options. Like, are you kidding me? Graduating high school, you can go to any school. Not some of you, but it's okay. Spanish 6, man, it hurt me, okay? I went to Bible college, all right? You can go to whatever school you want. You can go to whatever work, career you want. You can do whatever you want whenever you graduate. And for some of us, and for me, when I graduated high school, that was overwhelming. Because I wanted to know what God created me for, but there were just too many options. There are too many options. For some of us, the problem for us is there's too many good options. There's a lot of things that oh yeah, it'd be good to do that. It'd be good to do this. It'd be fine if I do that. And it's the good things that keep us from the great things. There's so many good options that we don't ever notice the great ones. For some of us, the problem is we don't know what to pick. We don't know what to choose. For some of us, the problem we face because we don't know our why is we lack a sense of purpose. We lack a sense of reason. We lack joy. We lack peace because we're constantly trying to figure out, what am I here for? I know what they're here for. What am I here for? And because of that, there's different emotions that we miss out on, like joy. You know your friend that just has unbelievable joy, unshakable peace, and you look at them and you're like, I want whatever they have. I want whatever they have. But the real problem that you're likely facing is that our whole life, we've been focused on what we want for ourselves and not for other people. My question for you tonight is this: when's the last time you thought about what you wanted for other people? When's the last time you thought about what you wanted for your friends? When's the last time you thought about what kind of future you want for your friends? When's the last time you thought about what career you want for your friends? What kind of life you want for your friends? What I want to propose to you tonight is the possibility that perhaps the reason why you don't know your purpose or your why is because this whole time you thought it was about you? What if there's a chance that your purpose isn't about you? What if there's a chance why the reason God created you wasn't about you? What if this whole thing called life isn't about you? You see, what I love about Jesus is Jesus lived the model life. He set an example for what it looks like to follow Jesus. He's the perfect example. And Jesus, he lived a life focused on other people. He spent his entire time, his entire life serving, loving, and giving to others. And perhaps the reason why Jesus had so much peace and joy is because Jesus knew his why. He knew his purpose. I want to invite you to Luke chapter 19. We're going to be in verse 1 through 10. Luke chapter 19, verses 1 through 10. And just some context for kind of what we're hopping into here. This is the story where Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem for Jewish Passover because he's on his way to be crucified. He's on his way to be beaten and killed. And this is where we find Jesus on the way passing through a town called Jericho. Luke chapter 19, verse 1, it says this. It says, Jesus entered Jericho and he made his way through the town. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. What was his name? He was the chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. Now, let me kind of put some context clues together here. So, what did it mean that he was the chief tax collector in the region? He became very rich from this. In that time, these tax collectors, they would say, hey, Eli, you owe me $10. Really, the government, Eli only owned $5, but Eli doesn't know that, so I'm going to take $10 from Eli. And culturally, people knew that these tax collectors were literal thieves just stealing people's money. And so everyone in the town hated Zacchaeus because he wasn't just any tax collector. Anyone know what he was? The chief tax collector. Go Chiefs. Just throwing that out there. Yeah, come on now. He was the chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. The scriptures say that he tried to get a look at Jesus, but what? What was his problem? He was too short. He was a short king, you know? He was too short to see over the crowd. And so the scriptures say that he ran ahead, he climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road. For Jesus was going to pass that way. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Had him and Zacchaeus met yet? No, yet he knew his name. He said, Zacchaeus, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today. And so Zacchaeus, he quickly climbed down. He took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy. But the people, they were displeased. They said, he's gone, talking about Jesus. He's gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner. Meanwhile, it says, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord. And he said, I'll give half my wealth to the poor, Lord. And if I have cheated people on their taxes, I'll give them back 4 times as much. Jesus responded, he said, salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. To help you understand what Jesus is saying here, he's not saying that, he's being saved because of his lineage. He's saying that he's showing repentance. He's showing a change of heart. He's showing that he no longer wants to go the world's way. He wants to go God's way. So he's saying salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. And this is the most important verse right here, verse 10. It says, for the Son of Man, this is Jesus, he came to what? Seek and save those who are lost. You see, Jesus knew his why. And because he knew his why, it determined his way. He knew his purpose was to seek and save those who are lost. But what if that isn't just Jesus' purpose? What if that isn't just Jesus? What if it isn't just Jesus' why in life? What if it wasn't just his purpose? What if it wasn't just the reason he came to this earth? What if it was the same reason we were too? What if it was our purpose too? What if the reason we were created was to know God and help others know him too? What if our mission in life, our goal, our objective, no matter what we actually do to make money, is really to seek and save that which is lost? On the Sunday that Jesus rose from the dead, he appeared to his disciples and he gave them their why, their purpose. In John chapter 20, verse 21, it's not going to be on the screen. Jesus says this. He says, as the Father has sent me, so I am sending you. What could easily be overlooked in this short passage is the most important thing that we could ever catch in the scriptures. That following Jesus, let me tell you, it's not about going to church. It's not about studying our Bibles. It's not about highlighting verses. It's not about making friends at church, but rather it's all about getting those outside these walls, inside these walls. What if we've gotten it all mixed up? What if it's not about knowing the newest worship song? What if it's not about making friends at church? What if it's not about everything we're doing here, but everything we're doing to get people outside of here in here? Jesus' mission was to seek and save that which is lost. Many of us are lost because we don't know our why. We've lost our why in life, our purpose. It's to know Jesus and to help others know him too. But to know Jesus is to live on mission to help others know him. Most of us, we've forgotten the second part and we often just do the first. We kind of gatekeep God. We keep him to ourselves when in all reality, listen to this, the most joyful, peaceful, rewarding, meaningful, exciting thing you can do in life is help your friend know Jesus. And when you know your why, you'll know your way. But maybe you're here and you're like, I have no idea how to do that. I have no idea how to share Jesus with my friend. I have no idea how to invite a friend to church. I've gotten pretty good at like all the other stuff, the knowing God part, but I've lost my way in some sense when it comes to helping those outside these walls come inside these walls. If it's you, maybe the first thing you start with this is going out of your way. You see, Jesus actually models this for us in this passage. It's important to know the context of Luke 19. Like I said, in this passage, Jesus is on his way to be crucified. He's on his way to do the most important thing in life. Imagine you were on your way to your biggest test. Imagine you're on your way about to take your biggest, you're on your way to your biggest interview. Maybe you're on your way to your biggest game. Let me ask you, how interruptible are you? Probably not very much. You'd probably want everyone to kind of keep quiet, keep to the side. Yet Jesus, in the most important moment of his life, made time for others. And what he did was along his way, he went out of his way to reach someone far from him. Jesus went out of his way along the way. What I love about this is it models for us that sharing Jesus with people doesn't have to be some crazy moment. We don't have to go somewhere completely new. I have a lot of friends that are missionaries all over the world, and God's not necessarily calling every single one of us to do that. Some of us, he's just calling us to go out of our way along the way. One of the most well-known passages of scripture in the Bible is, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them, teaching them what Jesus has taught us. And many of us think go means like go out of our way, like go somewhere we've never been before, like we got to get up and go do it. When you look at the Greek writing, the way that it was written is actually translated to say, as you go. That at your school, so many of us are walking around with headphones in, heads down, not talking to anybody because we're ready for school to be over. Yeah, what if our school was not just our campus, but our calling? What if we're not just a student on our campus, but a missionary sent by God to reach that campus with the good news of Jesus that you've already received, the hope that you've received? The second thing Jesus does is he starts with an invite. I love Jesus. He invited himself over to Zacchaeus' house. How many of you, I'm just curious, raise a hand. How many of you were invited to see why at some point in your life? Raise your hand. Maybe it was social media, it was a friend, it was a family member, you were forced to be here. How many of you, keep your hands raised. Keep your hands raised. Now, how many of you, you can put your hand down. How many of you has Jesus radically changed your life because of CY? Would you raise your hand? Yet the story started with an invite. It started with an invite. And many of us are ending the story because the person we were invited by was likely invited by somebody who was likely invited by somebody. And so many of us have been given the privilege of knowing Jesus, yet we've let the story end with us. Like, how awesome is it that someone went out of their way to invite us? And what are we going to do to respond? Not invite somebody else to experience the good news of Jesus that we've experienced? What are we going to do? We're going to start with an invite. If we know our why, if we know our purpose, we remember that it's our calling in life to seek and save that which is lost. It's our job to make sure those around us know Jesus. You see, God wants to use you. The last thought is this. I'm going to wrap up. It says this. It says, following Jesus, inviting our friends, what it really looks like is acting more like Jesus than the crowd. There's a few characters in this story. There's obviously Jesus. There's obviously Zacchaeus, but one character we may pass over is the crowd. I'm going to describe the crowd a little bit and see if it reminds you of anybody. You see, it was the crowd that did three things. The crowd, they blocked Zacchaeus from seeing Jesus. What else did they do? They judged Zacchaeus. They complained when Jesus showed him grace. The gut-wrenching thing about hearing those three things is that doesn't sound like a crowd anymore. It sounds like a church. A group of people who have blocked everyone out, who have gotten together in what Pastor Brian, our lead pastor, calls our holy huddle, where we've made it about us. We've made it about those of us that are here. We've made it about how well we know each other here. When the whole point of being here isn't to just build our holy huddle or our country club, it's to build God's church, to invite those that are lost, to seek and save that which are lost. But for so many of us, we block them out or we judge them. We say, look at those people. Look what they do. Look how they act. And then we complain when Jesus shows them grace. We say, no, that's not who they are. That's not who they were. That's not who I know. We complain. We often act more like a crowd than we do Zacchaeus. Someone who's willing to do whatever it takes to just see Jesus, to know God, to experience him, to do whatever it takes to climb a sycamore tree to see God. I just wonder what Orange County would look like. I wonder what your high school would look like if we adopted this purpose that Jesus had of seeking and saving that which is lost. I wonder if that passage in John 20:21 where Jesus says, as the Father has sent me, so I'm sending you. What if we took that to heart and said, God, what do you want to do through me? How can I help my friends? How can I help my community? What if your purpose, what if your why, what if we've had it all mixed up this whole time? It's not about us. What if it's about others? What we can do for others, how God can use us to reach those around us. But for many of you, you hear this story and you're not like Jesus. You're not like the crowd. You're like Zacchaeus. Where you're here and you're like, I don't even really know Jesus. I would love to know Jesus. I'd climb a sycamore tree to know Jesus. Maybe you're here and you're lost and you don't know your why and you want to, help others know Jesus, but you don't even really feel like you know Jesus. Maybe that's you here today. You've maybe never made a decision to trust God with your life for the first time. I want you to know tonight can be that night. How just in a moment, Zacchaeus, everything changed for him. Where he repented, he said, I'm not living like how I used to. I'm changing the way I live. I'm living for you, God. I'm going your way. I'm not going the world's way. And in that moment, Jesus said, salvation has come to this house. That it wasn't about him cleaning up. It wasn't about him doing enough, getting right. It was about him turning 180 degrees and say, Jesus, I'm going your way. This world hasn't worked. It's left me empty. It's left me incomplete. And in a moment, Zacchaeus met the person who could complete all of his needs. Maybe you're here today and that's a decision that you need to make.